pretty much.
Commissioners, I'd like to call to order the January meeting of the Public Safety Commission. Three individuals that have signed up to speak in general to us with David Connolly. I have you listed, sir, and you're going to speak to the topic, if you will, of police brutality. Welcome to the commission. Glad to have you here.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. It's my first time in City Hall. My name's David Connolly, 54 years old, professional musician until I was diagnosed stage 3 colon cancer. Then I kind of retired myself. I came to Austin June 6th, 1999 to play. And when I got here, it was my first day as an official resident of this city. I was excited and happy to be here. I'm still excited and happy to be here. And I didn't know hardly anyone when I got here, so I thought, it'll be fun to go down 6th Street, stand on the sidewalk out of the way, strum my acoustic guitar, meet people as they walk by, who knows. So that's what I did. I was down there playing my guitar, singing. I was a little east, close to the interstate, very light foot traffic, just interacting with people as they passed, having a great time, strumming my guitar. All of a sudden, wham, shoved from behind, face first, into the wall. I turn around, very heavy-set female police officer who began to tell me that I needed to keep that sidewalk clear. 2 or 3 male officers behind her kind of smirking. I'm not stupid. I kept my mouth shut. I accepted the physical damage, the damage to my instrument. I'm not stupid. I didn't even report it because I'm not going to waste my time like that. But this is what happens. This was my first day as a resident of this city, and that's the way I was treated. Keep that sidewalk clear. For who? Pedestrians? I was a pedestrian. Did I not have a right to be there? Why was I subjected to that? Wasn't recorded on video, nothing happened. I haven't hardly even mentioned it to anyone since that event, but in light of recent events and everything I'm seeing and how rampant and epidemic the police brutality and the use of this force with no accountability, it's got to stop. It's got to stop. That's all I really have to say, and thank you for listening to me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to get up here and speak, and I just hope we can get things straightened out and make this the city it ought to be. Thank you.
Good luck with your recovery, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. The sort of things that we don't like to hear, but it's our responsibility to hear those kinds of things. The third speaker is Heather Fazio. Heather, what is your topic? Or when you get up there, tell us what the topic is, please.
Well, Happy New Year first of all. My topic is the fact that it has become increasingly evident to us that one of the biggest threats to public safety is the city government itself. Earlier this week, there was an explosion in North Austin, and the incident was a direct result of the stronghold that the city government has on property owners in Austin. Reynolds was the victim's name. He was in his home when it exploded, and he died, unfortunately. But he was waiting for permission from the city in order to dig in his own driveway, to have the gas company dig. He had to wait 2 weeks, and he still couldn't get a permit in order to do this. And now I agree that there is personal responsibility, and he perhaps should have relocated. But the actual explosion, the damage to his property, the damage to his neighbor's property, and his neighbor who had to go to the hospital, that blood is absolutely on the city of Austin's hands in this incident. And the bureaucracy of it is what put all this at risk. So, upon what authority does the city even have to prevent someone from making a safer neighborhood, from making sure that their property is safe for their neighbors? I don't think that they have that authority, and we need to reevaluate the city's permitting processes to make certain that these things don't happen, and the focus needs to be on public safety, because this permitting process put people in danger, and especially when it comes to the city policies that are doing that, it's really something we need to reevaluate. The second issue I want to talk about is the police department. And, earlier, in the last 2 months, I've had 3 friends arrested for filming police. And Most recently, Antonio Buehler was arrested, and it was for standing up for a woman who he thought was being abused by an officer, and he was filming the officer. The charge was not interfering with investigation, so he wasn't interfering with investigation. The charge was harassment. He said that he spit in his face. He's an Iraqi war veteran. He would never spit in the face of a law enforcement officer, and there's witnesses coming forward. So this is one example of excessive use of force by Austin police officers. I've also seen the video of my friends John Bush and Matthew Medina being arrested downtown by Officer Mistrick. And the problem was that Mistrick got irritated with them. They were following him around. They were filming him because he's got an attitude. He's got an ego problem, and he probably has military training. And these are the more and more we see them coming into our law enforcement. And so he was upset that he was filming him, and he told him to back up, back up, back up, and he wanted him further than any other pedestrians away from the crime scene. I understand we don't want people investigating when there's real crime going on and when officers are apprehending real criminals, but he was not doing that. He was not interfering. He wasn't even saying a word, and there were other pedestrians that are closer. So my point is, I will be out this weekend doing cop watch, Friday and Saturday night. I've done it before, and I've never had any problems, but that's me. Obviously, others have. And if there are other pedestrians close to a crime scene, close to an investigation, I ought to be able to be as close to the scene as they are, whether I have a camera or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fazio. Mr. Rosmo.
Chief Carter, do you know if the APD has any policy or any training protocols regarding how to handle situations where an individual is not interfering with police actions but are taking pictures and filming?
I think the overriding issue really is that a person that's in a public place has every constitutional right to observe what is going on. The issue at hand, I think there's so far I've heard two or three different complaints, and I really want to urge people, number one, is the gentleman in the corner. You can certainly talk to myself or Lieutenant South to report that. You indicated that you did not report that to anybody. Those are things that we take seriously, but the issue of the camera issue is important to us as well. Police officers basically expect the entire society that we're dealing with today is there's cameras everywhere. If you look at any particular police incident, if somebody were to drive by, more than likely you're going to see somebody holding up an iPhone. That's the culture that we live in, and so these are important issues to us that Heather brings up and that other people have brought up. I won't address the specific incidents at hand because they really involve complaints that have to be investigated and looked into, but I can tell you categorically that the vast majority of police officers understand that they're going to be filmed. We have, every traffic stop is filmed by the officer themselves if the camera is obviously working, and that's the expectation working through that. Cameras are everywhere. There is a concern in terms of if an officer is conducting an arrest or something like that, if somebody is interfering, but the mere fact that they're present there filming is clearly not an offense. It's everybody's constitutional right to be in a public place and to film. So we certainly take those charges and allegations very seriously, looking at that. One of the things that in my experience as a police officer in the 28 years that I've been, the world has changed. The issue of social media and cameras are everywhere, and I think the younger generation sees that as something that is normal. I think it took the folks of my generation and some here at the panel, some of you are much younger, of course, with all due respect, it took some time to kind of appreciate the fact that society today is much more open, and there's YouTube, there are issues that are out there. We're looking at that. The police believe in the constitutional rights, and so this is something we'll carefully look at to see if there is an issue. But my perspective is that when you see incidents that are out here, when I go out and walk on 6th Street or something during some kind of special event or go out with officers or something like that, I see the iPhones everywhere holding them up to me at any time. So it's not something that's new. It's not something that we're unfamiliar with, but we will look and take those complaints seriously.
We have a fourth speaker, Chris Babot or Babex, which is it? K-R-I-S?
Oh,
What is the last name, sir?
Bailey.
Bailey.
I got
Penmanship
sloppy.
rivals mine.
I got
Mr.
sloppy handwriting. I know it.
Okay.
What I want to talk about is like a lot of people, I saw the video with Antonio Buehler and the police and what happened with that, and I'm gonna just kind of leave that part of it alone. I mean, I think an investigation should happen on that. That should be looked into. It's backing up a little bit, and the concept in our government and our police department right now in general is we've shifted from peace officers to law enforcement officers. We have so many bad, awful laws out there that really just shouldn't even be enforced anymore. Something that, and I'm not saying this should never be enforced, but the question that I have right off the bat is the girl that was being arrested for public intoxication, I believe, in that situation. The news was talking about it, about whether or not it was appropriate or if the police were in the legal justification for arresting her. She was a passenger in a car, and they were arguing about whether or not that you can arrest somebody for public intoxication as a passenger in a car. And they finally agreed that yes, it is legal to arrest somebody for that. And I'm just thinking, what a waste of time. I mean, somebody is a passenger in a car getting a ride home on New Year's Eve. Yeah, they probably had something to drink. And the whole thing all got sparked off from police deciding this person needs to go to jail, that they're drunk. And the first time I was arrested, I'm a habitual criminal up here for municipal ordinance violations. The first time I was arrested, though, was inside my own house. I was arrested for public intoxication. I hadn't even been drinking yet. And the police showed up and they knocked on my door and they said, we want to come in and check and make sure everybody's over 21. I was young at the time. I think I was 21. And I know my rights. And I said, without a warrant, I don't want you coming inside my house. And this is when they started explaining that if I didn't come out, that they were going to do this and that it was disorderly conduct and all these other things. And anyway, the bottom line is I ended up, after the threats from the police department, I did end up coming out and I was arrested immediately upon setting my foot on my front doorstep. I was arrested because, as it turns out, the law says that if you are in a place that is accessible to the public, that can be considered public intoxication. The ironic thing is I had actually just gotten home from work, and it was my roommate's party that I walked into, and I hadn't had anything to drink. And so after 2.5 years of fighting this in court, it was dropped. I asked for a trial. I never got it. I just had to show up to court repeatedly, and you can be tortured with the process. The court process. It's very time consuming and it's very expensive. And really my crime was being a smartass to the cop by not letting him come in and check everybody's ID. So the public intoxication in a car is a waste of time. We had people for 6 hours last night testify in front of council about how the city is broke and we're racking up charges for everything. We need to stop spending money on things that aren't really accomplishing anything. And I don't think a passenger in a car that's had a few too many drinks really needs to go to jail to protect them. It's not keeping them safe. And I'd really like the city to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. We have one more. I'm working to keep us on a tight schedule because we have a number of things we want to do today. Laura Presley, please, if you'll.
Hello, Commissioners. Thank you for your service. I'm Laura Presley, and I've spent 17 years in engineering and as a business manager in the semiconductor industry here in Austin. And also, I was on 5 years of the Safe Place Board of Directors. So I've done a lot of work on domestic violence and violence against women. One thing that really struck me about the Antonio Buehler story was that I was really encouraged that this young man, West Point grad and veteran, actually stuck up for this woman. What he believed as being excessive force and misconduct by this policeman, I'll tell you what, we spent a lot of money at Safe Place to get men to speak up against other men, against violence against women, and they would be very proud of him. So I look at this and I go, what did he do wrong, and what caused this huge escalation that happened between he and these two officers? I'm sure you guys have seen the video. A lot of us have seen it. And I have to ask the question of free speech. Okay, what did he do? He said, stop doing that. He did not interfere between the officer and the woman. And I'm really curious about free speech. When you're seeing something that you believe is being wrong and being a violation, and you're not interfering between the two parties, Seems to me the First Amendment holds, and you can say, stop that. Okay? It's very simple. The second thing, so I'd like you to consider that, and I'd like a response to that of how the police department and how this commission thinks about free speech, as long as you're not getting in between those two parties. Second question is related to the videotaping that we just discussed. Again, at a distance where you're not interfering between the two. It just seems to me that it is our constitutional right to videotape and hold people accountable. And I love that about our society and our culture right now, that we can do that. And I hope that we maintain that policy here in Austin. So I'd like to ask the question about the free speech. And the second kind of, well, I guess third thing that I'd like to bring up is, how can police officers be communicated to and trained that free speech is okay and videotaping is okay? Because I think how this escalated between Antonio Buehler and these two officers, where the two officers got angry that these two things happened. And I'd like us here to address, how can we train our officers to step back, be peace officers, and de-escalate a situation instead of escalate it as this happened? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Presley. Let me mention that we will have some topics that will begin to look at that kind of issue, I think, here tonight. We take all of this citizen input in advisement in our deliberations. We exist basically to listen to citizen concerns, our concerns, concerns from the department, concerns from the media, and provide advice to the city council. And to the extent that the commissioners feel this is a topic that we need to delve into in detail and take action items, that would appear that way on the agenda. So all of you, thank you for your concerns. We've heard what you have to say.